Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. SarahJilani, academic, writer, and lifelong third culture kid. This is The Global Gaze, where we talk art, film, and books from an international perspective. In the UK right now, much of the conversation about migration is dominated by headlines about illegal crossings and small boats. Tabloid front pages splash fear and suspicion. Talk radio phone-ins frame asylum seekers as a threat. And political soundbites reduce complex human realities to border statistics. But that's only one side of the story, and it's often a distorted one. Missing from these soundbites are the actual voices of the people who are fleeing war, persecution, economic deprivation, and conflict. Where can we turn to get the lived experience of those who never planned to leave home but were left no other choice? Today, I want to slow things down and look beyond the news rhetoric to narrative storytelling. We're going to explore 3 films that cut through the noise. Tiny Souls by Dina Nasser, For Sama by Wad El-Khatib, and Atlantics by Mati Diop. Together, they offer a deeply textured picture of what it means to have to flee your home, and why many people have to risk everything to find safety and dignity. So if all you've heard about immigration are things like illegality or numbers, then these stories might just change how you see both this issue and the wider world. Our first film, Tiny Souls, directed by Dina Nasser, centers on a Palestinian-Jordanian family living in Jordan's al-Zatari refugee camp. 9-year-old Marwa, her sister Aya, and their brother Mahmoud give us a child's eye view of life in limbo, where normality and uncertainty collide every day. Nasser perfectly captures the paradox and pain of camp life with a line that really stays with you. There is no war in camps, but no peace either. There's a need for everything and yet a desire for nothing. We follow the family as they briefly try to leave the camp and see if they can make a life in the near city. Marwa is enchanted. I could almost be back home in Dara, she says, until the high cost of living forces them to return to the camp. The price of tomatoes in town is 6 times what it is in the camp. That moment, almost trivial on the surface, reflects a broader truth. For many refugees, dreams of moving on even after conflict may have ended are constantly dragged down by economic hardship. In Tiny Souls, displacement isn't defined by tents and ration lines alone. It's in the longing glances at a city street, the giggles of siblings inventing games, and the daily negotiations between hope and reality. Our second film, For Sama, directed by Wad El-Khatib and Edward Watts, shifts us from the aftermath to an actual war zone. El-Khatib films her life in Aleppo, Syria, from 2012 to 2016, capturing not only the siege and destruction of the city, but also her own personal milestones. Amidst protests, conflict, instability, and war, she falls in love, gets married, and gives birth to her daughter, Sama. And the film itself is framed as a letter to Sama. It's fascinatingly both documentarian and narrative. Amid the chaos, El-Khatib asks, "What a life I've brought you into. Will you ever forgive me?" It's not self-pity. It's the voice of a young mother trying to reconcile her love for her daughter with survival. For Sama resists sentimentality, though. It asks its viewer to confront what it means to choose to stay when others are fleeing, and to witness the everyday heroism of trying to keep a child alive and a family together under siege. And yet in between the shelling, there are moments of beauty, shared meals, jokes between friends, a newborn's gaze, surgeons sleeping after a successful and exhausting surgery. These all remind us how people can and do endure. These glimpses of life are not just acts of resistance, they're acts of humanity. El Khatib and her family hold on and stay in Aleppo for as long as they can, working in the hospital that helps treat the wounded. But eventually, they too have to leave in order to remain alive. Our third film, Mati Diop's Atlantics, moves away from the realism of the first two examples. Diop takes us to modern-day Dakar and the Senegalese coast, where young men decide that they will try and cross the Atlantic by dinghy in the middle of the night to try and make it to the Spanish Canary Islands. It's a migration story, but one told through the language of mystery, romance, and even zombies. Yep, you heard that right. The central character, Ada, is left behind after the man she loves, Suleiman, disappears at sea. We learn that the only reason Suleiman and a few other young men decided to make this perilous journey is because they have been withheld their pay for months by the owner of the construction site that they work in. Soon, strange events ripple through the community. Women fall into trances, voices of those lost at sea speak through the living. The film never shows us the journey of these young men and what happened to them at sea, but their ghosts return to possess the women, sisters, lovers, wives, mothers that they left behind. And it is their women who extract the debt that the dead are owed. Diop blends social realism with a ghost story, turning the absent migrants into a haunting presence throughout the film that can't be ignored. Haunting and beautiful shots of the Atlantic Ocean at night give us a sense that this is a place which is both a graveyard for dreams and the vehicle of hopes unrealized. So in many ways, unlike the first two examples, but in complementarity to them, Atlantics focuses on those loved ones who are left behind. Now, these are just three examples that are relatively recent, but they couldn't be more different from one another. One is an intimate camp chronicle, the other is composed of handheld footage of a war zone, and the other is a semi-supernatural story. But together, they remind us of two key things that are always getting lost in the media rhetoric. Refugeedom is not one kind of experience, and it is not voluntary. And for many, it's an ocean crossing that risks everything, leaving those left behind at home to deal with a very uncertain kind of loss. When you hear the phrase illegal migrant in the media, you're not meant to picture little Marwa giggling in tiny souls. You're not meant to think of Wad rocking her baby amidst falling bombs, or Ada staring out into the ocean at night, wondering whether her love will return. And that's the power of cinema, to replace faceless categories with actual human beings, to reveal the conditions that force people to move, and to replace the knee-jerk reflex towards suspicion with understanding instead. If more of us saw migration through the lenses that these three stories and many others offer us, then we might start asking different questions. Not how do we stop them, but what would I do if I was running for my life? And most importantly, how can we help build a world where this stops happening to people over and over again? Thank you so much for watching The Global Gaze. As I mentioned, these are just three examples of what is a wonderful genre of filmmaking. And I would love to hear if you have any favorites in the comments below. As always, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and like this video so that you can keep up with any of my new content. That's it from me for today. Keep your gaze global and your mind open.